In a certain village in Bengal lived Acharya Gopal, a genuine scholar in scriptures. He enjoyed considerable reputation as a priest. He wandered from village to village performing religious rites and guiding sacred ceremonies in different households. He always returned with handsome gifts and money. He earned enough to maintain his small family consisting of his wife and two children, a son and a daughter. But he knew no happiness at home. His wife Pratima was extremely quarrelsome. She found 100 reasons to shout at her neighbors. As though that was not enough, she abused her husband on every slight issue. Not that Pratima did not love her husband. In fact, whenever Acharya Gopal was away, she repented for her conduct towards him and took a vow not to repeat it. But the vow was kept only till Acharya was out of the sight. Once he came back and Pratima saw him, she became loud with complaints. Even the children took pity for their father and pleaded with their mother not to be rude towards him. Pratima then seemed to realize her folly, but only for a moment. The Acharya did his best to please his wife, but his efforts hardly yielded any result and often brought rebuffs. One day, Acharya Gopal returned from some distant village carrying a pumpkin wrapped in a towel. See what I have brought for you. What a large gift, he announced, looking at Pratima. For a moment, Pratima looked glad, perhaps expecting to see something valuable, but when the Acharya unfolded the towel and showed the pumpkin, she burst out, "Ah, what a precious gift! Did you not feel ashamed to boast of your earning as though it was a chunk of diamond?" Pratima then threw the pumpkin out into the courtyard. It got shattered into pieces. Acharya Gopal felt extremely humiliated. He went out of the house in fit of self-contempt. He decided to end his life. He hurried to the river bank and tied a heavy boulder to his waist. But when he was about to jump into the water, he heard a shout, "Hey, stop, stop, stop!" Acharya Gopal saw his friend Shantinath coming running at him. "What is this you are going to do, Gopal? A great scholar that you are, how do you forget that commit suicide was one of the greatest sins?" Shantinath chided Gopal. "I know, Shantinath, but you too know the cause of my anguish. This is the only way I can put an end to my suffering," muttered Gopal. "Look here, Gopal, an excellent idea has just flashed in my mind. I know that your wife is rude only in her external nature, not in her heart. It should not be difficult to change her. Just cooperate with me and see," said Shantinath. Gopal threw away the boulder and accompanied Shantinath to his house. Although he was not quite hopeful for changing Pratima's nature. At Shantinath's house, both the friends sat down for lunch. Shantinath narrated his scheme to Gopal, who heard it attentively and agreed to do as directed by his friend. At sunset, a bearded mendicant was seen entering Acharya Gopal's house. As Pratima looked at the stranger with a little surprise, he asked, "Hello, widow, what are you doing?" "Go to hell, you stupid fellow! Do I look like a widow?" shouted Pratima. "You unlucky woman, you are still ignorant of the fact that your husband is lying dead." "Ah," said the mendicant. "What do you mean?" shrieked Pratima, looking wild. "I mean what I say. I have just now seen Acharya Gopal lying dead in front of the image of goddess Kali inside the temple." "Come with me and see for yourself," said the mendicant calmly. Pratima followed the mendicant to the temple. The temple door was locked from outside, but the window remained open. Through it, Pratima could clearly see her husband lying in a pool of blood, a sword clamped on his throat. The blade of the sword, it appeared, had entered deep into the throat. "What have you done, my husband?" shouted Pratima as she dashed her own head on the temple wall. The temple priest came running and stopped Pratima from doing any further harm to herself. "My foolish sister, the Acharya killed himself, unable to bear your harsh treatment anymore." "What is the use cracking your head now?" said the priest. "It is true, brother priest. It is really true. It is on account of me that he ended his life. Now please allow me to end my life too," said Pratima, wailing all the time. The mendicant stepped forward and asked in a grave tone, "If you are ready to give your own life for sake of a dead husband, why couldn't you be just a little kind for living husband?" "That was my foolishness and I must pay for that in my life," said Pratima. You need not. If you decide not to be foolish anymore, I possess an elixir by which it is possible to bring the dead back to life. I am willing to treat Gopal's corpse with it provided you promise never to harass him again, said the mendicant. Pratima most eagerly promised to abide by the condition. The priest opened the temple door. The mendicant poured a drop of water on Gopal's lips from a tiny bottle and then covered him with an ochre sheet. He then uttered some mantra and moved his hand on Gopal's body. Under the ochre sheet, he slowly brought out the blood-stained sword from beneath the sheet and rolled and removed the sheet itself. Gopal lay still. The mendicant rubbed a little more elixir on the throat. Soon Gopal stirred and fluttered his eyes open. Then he sat up like waking from a deep slumber. Pratima sat down at the Acharya's feet and could hardly speak. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Gopal gave out a smile. Both then thanked the mendicant and left for home. As soon as they left, the mendicant pulled down his false beard and became his old self Shantinath. So, Shastri, we have done a good thing, haven't we? Shantinath asked the priest. No doubt, but how could you create the illusion of the sword clamping into the Gopal's throat? Even I had turned panically for a moment, said the priest. That was the trick, Shastri, explained Shantinath smiling. He showed two swords of the same size, but at the middle of the blade of one of the swords there was a half circular curve. When it was placed on anybody's throat, it appears as if it had been driven deep into the throat. The sword I brought out was hidden under Gopal's back. While rolling off the sheet, managed to hide the curved sword under his fold, explained Shantinath. And what looked like blood was only a bottle of red ink. But we should not have performed a magic to deceive somebody right in front of the deity, observed the priest. Don't you worry, Shastri, the deity would understand. She would bless us for our saving Gopal from his intended suicide and restoring peace in his house, said Shantinath. Shastri, the priest, nodded and said, I hope so. So, friends, if you like the story, please subscribe and hit the bell icon. Thanks for watching.